Hello and welcome to today's special event, Data Discovery and Protection Made Easy. This event is brought to you in partnership with Rubrik and produced by Actual Tech Media. Thanks so much for joining us. This is going to be a fast-paced, information-packed event. We've got a live demo coming up as well, which is going to be really cool. So if you want to learn how to make your data protection easier and provide data discovery in the process, you're in the right place. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as the moderator. We want this to be an educational event, and we encourage your questions. Of course, at Actual Tech Media are all former IT professionals. We know how tough it can be here in the world of enterprise IT, and we want to help you to solve your technology challenges. We'll be doing a electronic Q&A on the event today, so keep your questions coming during the presentation, and our experts from Rubrik are standing by to answer all of your questions. Let's see, we do have a couple of handouts there in the handouts tab. I want to call your attention to a link to rubrik.com and Rubrik Build for additional information on today's solution. And then we'll also be announcing the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card door prize. The winner of that will be contacted after the event via email. And then we also have our best question prize as well that we're running on this event for another $50 Amazon gift card. Prize winners will be contacted after the event, and winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize policy. So with that information out of the way, it's time to kick off today's expert presentation. I'm excited to introduce Kristina Avrainova, Principal Product Marketing Manager at Rubrik, and Mr. Joshua Stenhouse, Field Chief Technology Officer at Rubrik. Excited to have you both on the event today. I'm going to first hand it off to you, Kristina. Take it away.
Thank you for joining our session today. As you can see, our agenda is going to be super short and sweet. We'll talk about the data imperative or the challenges with data today. We'll introduce Rubrik, and then we will jump into a Rubrik demo. Again, as a reminder, please ask your questions as the presentation moves along, and we will be answering them in real time. All right, so let's look at today's enterprise. It is a hybrid, multi-applications, multi-cloud IT world. You have a plethora of custom applications, packaged applications, SaaS applications, all sorts of databases, storage systems, you name it. And as a result, your data is everywhere. Data is everywhere, and there seems to be no chance of slowing down, because the application sprawl will continue, the data growth will continue, and most of the data will keep on being siloed. And the reality is that for most organizations, the data management is inefficient. It's already inefficient, and it will only become a bigger mess. Data is not properly protected, it is not readily available, and the net result is that it leaves the business vulnerable. But what if? What if you can automatically detect newly added workloads, and you can automatically discover all your data across this hybrid multi-cloud IT world? And better yet, what if all this newly discovered data is automatically protected? So should anything happen before you had a chance to properly set up your policies, you know you have insurance, and you can rest assured that you have data protection strategy in place. But let's continue a little bit more with those what if. What if you also get to enjoy native data immutability, so data cannot be accessed or encrypted by ransomware? And should bad guys try to do bad things to your data, you can quickly assess what has been affected and quickly determine the blast radius of the attack, so you can recover fast with near zero RTOs. Well, at Rubrik, there are no what ifs. At Rubrik, we actually do. We do provide a modern way to back up and recover all your data everywhere, Plus, we give you a whole lot more. Let me tell you a little bit about Rubrik. So Rubrik pioneered the middle piece here, the cloud data management, moving away from the legacy protection world. We decided to have a policy-driven approach, a set of SLAs that we could apply across all your workloads. And on top of that, we took that restoration window down from weeks and days to minutes. So super fast recovery and all controllable from on-premises to the cloud through a single pane of glass. So we pioneered the next generation cloud data management. But as I said, we also give you a whole lot more. We give you a zero trust data management approach. This is the idea of providing security from the point of data, leveraging zero trust backups that will allow you to recover in the face of operational threats. And this includes leveraging things like rapid and orchestrated ransomware recovery, using backups to drive data governance, and machine learning powered risk detections. Let's take a slightly deeper look. So we discover all your workloads on premises and all of the things that you're trying to do in the cloud. Again, they're not what ifs with Rubrik. And our core value proposition resolves around 3 elements. The first one is the rapid recovery. We kind of already touched on it. So we allow you to recover applications as quickly as possible and instantly with things like live mount, instant recovery, very quick exporting. Next is the thing we're calling bit resilience. This is Rubrik's native immutability. So your data cannot be modified, deleted, or encrypted from ransomware. And you're ready to recover and have data always available. And then is the policy automation. So you can automate all of your data operation with a simple set of sliders that give you massive control while replacing those hundreds or thousands of backup jobs with a simple SLA-driven declarative framework. But I think I've talked enough. How about now you see a live demo of Rubrik in action? So you see for yourself this simplicity and the power of the Rubrik platform. How easy it is to discover all those workloads, all your data everywhere, and how easy it is to set up all these SLAs. Josh, are you ready?
Thanks, Christina. So in this demo, I'm going to take you through how Rubrik makes data discovery and data protection easy. And just as a quick intro, this is the Rubrik interface that you have inside a data center, a Rubrik cluster, and it's plugging into everything you're protecting. And that's a core concept that I just want to emphasize, because if you think about backup is plugged into everything in your environment. It's plugged into your vCenters, it's connected to your physical servers, it's protecting all your physical assets. So when you think about it, data discovery, one of its biggest challenges is just being able to have the breadth of connectivity and knowing what's where and being up to date. And the one thing that you can argue is more up to date than any other potential source, and a great source of being a repository for a CMDB itself, is backup. So this is a Rubrik cluster, and it's going to be plugged in to protecting all your virtual machines. We can see all the VMs in the vCenter. It's plugged into all your physical Linux, Unix, Windows servers, SQL, Oracle databases, receiving database dumps. So in terms of data discovery, if you haven't looked at backup before, it's probably because you couldn't. But another core concept in Rubrik is that everything is API first. And by being API first, this means that a world of automation and use cases is now at your fingertips. And this could be just general backup, like registering a host, automating the deployment, recovery type or testing type workflows. But when we think about data discovery, this now means that you have a REST API and an endpoint on every server. You need to query how many Unix servers you're having in your environment. There's a REST API call. You need to query how many SQL servers have an online database. Backups plugged into it, Rubrik's plugged into it. It's an API call. You don't have these native to these applications, these operating systems, but by implementing Rubrik, it opens up these new possibilities that you didn't think possible before. And as a quick fun game, just to give you an idea of how far you can take this world of API first and integration, open up your web browser. Google Rubrik GitHub. Now look at the number of repositories. As we're showing you this, 99. Probably going to be 100 plus in the next few weeks. Now take your existing backup vendor if it's not Rubrik, or any other vendor that comes to the top of your mind. Google the same string and see what you get. That is the difference between API first and being having all of this data at your fingertips and not. So we're going to start with how do we make data protection easy, and then we're going to come back to data discovery because I want to show you a few different use cases. And one thing that's very important with Rubrik is that yes, it's API first, but the UI is designed to be simple. We're not giving you too many nerd knobs. Nerd knobs probably and usually fall off in your hands, and we're expecting advanced users to be able to use APIs these days. So we're making the UI simple so that anyone can pick it up, and within 20 minutes you can do a backup, you can do a recovery of an Oracle database without knowing a lick about Oracle, which I absolutely love because I hate Oracle between you and I. So let's look at how it makes it easy. And the easy thing with Rubrik is that everything has a concept of an object-centric card view, whereby here I go to a virtual machine, and on this one screen, I can see everything pertinent to the protection of this object, this virtual machine. I can see its protection status, when it was last backed up, when it's next going to back up, all the individual activities occurring for that virtual machine. I can take a backup. I can then browse my calendar and view the points in time available for recovery. I can click on the point in time that I want to go to and drive a recovery. And I've got the ability to mount the virtual machine, recover it to data stores, recover individual files, or I could just search for the files, and there you go. I'm not a VMware expert, allegedly, but I can now search for a VM, I can search for a file, I can recover it all. Let's take this out, and then let's say, okay, now I need to recover a file on a physical host. So I just go to Windows hosts, I go to this server here, I can see the same similar card view. I don't need retraining. I've got a backup of a volume. I can go to the point in time, and you know what? I'm actually going to recover the whole volume. There you go, simple workflow. Now let's get a bit more complicated and say I want to recover a SQL database. Do I need to call the DBA and get them out of bed at 3 a.m. to recover a SQL database to a transactionally consistent point in time? No, I don't. All I've got to do, click on the database, I went to the host, the SQL instance, the database name. Here we have a database being backed up. I got the same view. Again, no difference. I'm going to go to yesterday, and then I can select the point in time down to the individual second, and Rubrik is then going to automatically restore the last full, replay the logs for me. I go to an Oracle database, and Oracle is not something you want to mess with, and yet I can still do the exact same workflow. And this is how Rubrik makes data protection easy, because you don't have to be an expert in Oracle, in SQL, in virtualization, or even in backup itself, because all you've got to do is point and click and go. But that's a Rubrik cluster inside a data center. What if you have multiple Rubrik clusters, multiple data centers? Maybe you've got 50, maybe you got 100, maybe you got 3. So Rubrik isn't just limiting you to having to go to each Rubrik cluster in each data center. We also have something that we call Polaris, which is our global SaaS interface. And this is where you have a single pane of glass across all of your Rubrik clusters on-premise, but then all of your cloud protection sources, be it SaaS and protecting O365, AWS RDS, EC2 instances, Azure VMs, Google Cloud, and it also gives you a holistic view across all your on-prem clusters, what they're protecting, events and reports, etc. And this is where, for me, if we go back to that data discovery use case, it gets really interesting, because Rubrik is always API first. A Rubrik cluster in a data center are all REST APIs. When we're using Polaris, these are all GraphQL, but it's still API first. So this then gives you a very interesting capability whereby now, if I want to see every single object, every server, every database across my entire estate and environment, I have now the ability to connect to Polaris and query the Polaris APIs, I don't even have to programmatically go and do a for each and go to each Rubrik cluster. I have a central source of truth that I can query. So I want to give you a glimpse into just an idea of how you can do that. So this is a sample script that I'll be releasing on my blog in the next couple of weeks. I want to polish it up and change a couple of things like removing Unix timestamps, but watch this space on virtuallysober.com. I'll be releasing this, and it's going to be Rubrik Polaris all protected objects, and I'm just going to give it a run. It's prompting me for my Polaris credentials, which I'm just going to pop in. And then what we can see here, Rubrik clusters 10, objects 6091, and now it's also getting the last 1 hour of events, and just for sake of brevity in this demo, I'm only getting 1 hour. You could easily change this to 24. It's going to take some time because across 6,000 objects, 10 clusters, of course you're going to have a lot of backup events going on, especially when you're doing database log backups. It's finished its collection, and let's take a look at what it's collected for us. So here I've got an array of all the objects returned. And what I can see here is I have a unique identifier for every single SQL database, Windows or Linux file set, which is how I configure the backup of the files in the system. And I can sort by object type. I've got shares, I've got Hyper-V, I've got VMware virtual machines, I've got Oracle databases, EC2 instances. And if I just do a quick filter here, let's look at all the different object types that I got based on this query. So object type unique. Look at that data that I've got back. Every single thing in your environment. And this is not just those that are protected, because you can see here I've got a SQL database that isn't protected. Here I've got an EC2 instance that isn't protected. And if I look at the data available, I can see for every single object, whether it's protected or not, its last backup, the total number of snapshots when it was protected on, the storage that it's using, both local, if replicated and archived, the last snapshot that was archived or replicated, the logical bytes of the actual data that it's been protected, the amount transferred, yada yada yada. And so this is just to give you an idea that once you have an API and everything, and Rubrik is managing all your backups, then the limit is just your imagination, and this now becomes the central source of truth that you didn't have before, because backup connects everything, and your backup now has a REST API or a GraphQL API to query that data and get you what you need. And a great example of how you can leverage this is our pre-built integration into a CMDB in ServiceNow. So you can just Google Rubrik ServiceNow blog. You'll see this post back in February where we now have a pre-built integration that allows you to populate your CMDB in ServiceNow using Rubrik. So everything has a CI, it's linked to Rubrik, automatically refreshes and updates, and this helps you solve one of the key challenges of having a CMDB in the first place, which is how do you make sure that it has everything and how do you keep it up to date? Plugging it into backup could be your secret weapon for data discovery. So thanks for joining the session. Pass it back.
All right. Excellent presentation, Christina and Josh. I really appreciate that, and really cool demo. So if you have a question now for the Rubrik experts, now is the time to drop it there in the questions pane. They are standing by to answer your questions. We do appreciate all your questions, and of course appreciate everyone joining the webinar today on how to make data discovery and data protection easy with the Rubrik solution. Don't forget to check out the handouts there before you go in the handouts tab. That'll take you over to Rubrik.com and also build.rubrik.com, where you can learn how to automate your data protection with Rubrik. All right, so now it's time for our prize announcement for our Amazon $300 gift card. Let's see, this is going out to one lucky winner, Jeff Billman from North Carolina. Congratulations, Jeff Billman from North Carolina. And we'll also be contacting our best question prize winner after the event. All right. Well, I said this was going to be short and succinct and jam-packed with information and a live demo, and I believe it was. So let's go ahead and wrap up the event now. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today on the Rubrik data discovery and data protection solution and just how easy it can be with Rubrik. Thanks again for joining, and have a great day.